Hi guys, and welcome to artflow channel. This is part number 6 within our free online course about Adobe Illustrator, and today we're gonna talk about a lot of different things such as gradients, image trace, different type options, and a lot of other things. So without further ado, let's get started. At the beginning, let's talk about gradients and how you can create them in this software. To have a gradient, you need to have any object on your scene, for example, a rectangle, so I'm hitting M on my keyboard. And as you can see, I have a white color, so I need to change it to any other color, for example, purple, this one. And I don't want to have any color, so for the stroke, I'm just gonna disable it. Okay, now we have this square. How to change it from the fill, from basic fill to a gradient? We have a couple of options, but the most basic one and the most common one is just switching to the gradient over here. You can click with left mouse button over here, and as you can see, we have a basic gradient from black to white. What does gradient actually mean? It means that we have a smooth transition between a couple of colors. For example, here we have a transition from black to white. If we have more than two colors, that's still a gradient, so we can have black to purple, from purple to white, and it still be called gradient. So if you want to have a transition, it means that you need to find a gradient. Okay, now we have this simple transition from black to white, but we want to change a color to, for example, orange one. How we can make this? We have a lot of options. The most common one is going to gradient panel over here. As you can see, we have it on the right side. If you don't have this panel, just go to window, and in windows section you can find this gradient over here, where it's, yeah, this one. So just click and you'll see that you have this floating panel over here. So I'm just gonna move it around towards this direction so we can see it more clearly without moving to the right part. And over here, you need to select the object with a gradient, this one. And now you can double click on those circles to change colors of this gradient. And here is a bit tricky situation because sometimes you cannot change color of the gradient. You'll have only white and black colors. To change color of the gradient, if you have this situation, if you're facing this issue, you need to go over here and switch from grayscale to HSB or RGB or CMYK, depending on your situation. So right now I'm just gonna go to HSB, and that's all. If you're on grayscale, the only option you have is changing K option, which is basically white or black color. So for now, just go to HSB, and over here you have a standard operation of hue, saturation, and brightness. As you can see right now, I have only black color, and to see which colors do we have exactly over here, you need to increase brightness for this option. So I'm just gonna increase it to 100%, and now as you can see, we have a full range of H and S. And now, for example, I want to change this to orange, so I'm just gonna slide it over here, and saturation the same, and brightness controls brightness. Now, let's talk about some other things because, for example, let's leave it over here, but I want to make a copy of this gradient because I want to have a transition from orange to yellow color or to more reddish color, it depends on the situation, but for now, just let's make a copy of this color. To make a copy, you need to hold Alt on your keyboard or Option on Mac and just simply drag this circle to any other spot on this line. We have a second color. Now, if you want to remove the color from this slider, you just need to drag it out from this slider, and as you can see, it disappears. So now we have two similar colors, orange and orange, and we don't have any gradient because those colors are similar. So we need to change second color, for example, this one. Double click on the circle, and now I want to change it to a more yellow color. Let's increase saturation, maybe even more, so you can see it on YouTube. Yeah, so we have this transition. Let's make the first color more saturated, more orangey. Okay, now we have this gradient. Let's talk about other things. How you can create a gradient with 3 different colors. The same way, just click over here at the bottom part of your slider. As you can see, you have this plus icon, and whenever you click, you can see that you create a new object, new color swatch. Now double click on this color swatch, and here you can change it to red color, for example. A very important thing that you need to know is please Do not use opposite colors because you'll have a very dirty transition between colors. For example, if we have orange color, if you're gonna use something from the opposite part of Johannes Eden panel, you'll see that you have this dirty transition because it's the opposite side of the circle, and based on that you'll have a transition through the gray area, and that's why you can see this grayish area over here between those transitions, because the color itself needs to go from yellow through the middle, which is a great area without any saturation, and then it needs to go to the colored area, which is blue right now, the opposite one. And that's why, as you can see, we have this dirty color over here. And in order not to have this color, you need to add some transition colors. For example, if we were somewhere here, you need to go to the middle, to this part, because in that way we're gonna be on the middle of this transition part and we can give some saturation brightness. But as you can see, it looks not so great. So the main goal of gradients, so they can look more fancy, is to use similar colors. For example, if you're using purple color, you can add blue color and you can add more red color. In that way you'll have a smooth, perfect transition. Let me show it to you. I'm gonna go over here, I'm gonna have this more blue transition color, and over here I'm gonna create a more red-like transition color, and this one, let's change it even further. For example, this one, as you can see, we have very smooth transition from the blue to the quite saturated and reddish color, and we don't have any grayed areas over here. So if you want to have a fancy, cool gradient, please do not use opposite colors because they're gonna look messy. Now, I've spent a lot of your time, but I hope this information was useful. And now let's discuss second thing. What do you have from control over here? Because we have a lot of different things. At the beginning, you need to understand that you can change type of a gradient, because at the beginning we have linear gradient. We also can change it to radial gradient, and as well we can choose freeform gradient. Let's talk about the linear gradient because we have something to cover even for this part. If you want to change angle of the gradient, you can go in two different ways. First way is simply going over here and changing it to 45 degrees, for example, using this control panel. But if you want to have manual control, if it's faster for you, simply select G on your keyboard, hit G, and over here you'll see that you have this gradient tool, and now you can hold left mouse button and drag to the part where you want to release it. As you can see, we have this transition. The shorter this line, the more harsh the gradient is gonna be. So if you want to have very smooth transition, you need to have this line as long as possible, because the short one is gonna give you this harsh transition, and you need to keep that in mind. Also, you can see that you have this diamond control over here. What it does, it basically allows you to redistribute amount of purple or red color between your swatches. So right now, as you can see, I have this gradient slider to the left part. It means that most of my gradient is purple, and the dark purple area is a very small one, so you can just distribute amount of color itself over here. If you're gonna create a second swatch, as you can see, you have the second control option, so it's up to you how you want to arrange this one. And as you can see, you have this location. If you're a nerd and you want to have 50% of coverage of your gradient, just go to 50. It means that your slider is going to be placed exactly at location of 50% of this area, just in case you want it. Now, let's talk about other option. As you can see, we have radial gradient, and yes, if you want to change radial, it's the same as linear one, but radial, so quite easy. And as you can see, you have some additional controls because you can move this around, and also you can change shape of this radial gradient because you can change aspect ratio of it, for example 30. And as you can see, now we have an oval, so yeah, if you want to change it, you can do that. Mostly I'm not using it, so my round gradients are always round. I'm not using those oval options, but in case you need, you know where to find it. And one more, if you want to inverse those colors, for example, you want to change purple with this red color, you can click reverse gradient. In that way, You're simply changing colors, and this one is quite useful when you have a lot of swatches, because when you have only 2 of those swatches, you simply can move them around, and that's all. You're gonna have the same result. But when you have a lot of those swatches, it's quite time consuming, so it's better just to click this button, and that's all. Now, in terms of freeform gradient, this one is quite interesting, because freeform gradient is a gradient which is quite complicated. It's not a basic one, and over here you can add as many points as you want, and you can change its color. For example, let's create a purple based gradient with some orange spots over here. So I'm just gonna have this point is purple, this point is going to be more light purple based, this one even more saturated, and this one, for example, it's going to be not ideal, but I'm just going to show you what you can create with this tool. Yeah, and we have this orange spot over here. The problem with this gradient is the gray area over here. As you can see, it's not so harsh, it's not so visible, but still we have it. And you can just click over here to add new color. You can change it to any other, for example, blue. And that's all. You can just move them around, and you can accomplish quite interesting results with this tool. And it's very easy. You can change amount of color itself within this gradient area. For example, if you want to have this orange color more dominant, you can just increase it over here. Or if you want to decrease size of this gradient, you can just scroll down. That's it. So yeah, this tool is quite easy. And as you can see, you have an option to decrease opacity, and this option is available even here. You can just click over here and decrease opacity to 0, and in that situation you'll have transition from purple to purple, but the purple color is going to be at 0% of opacity. And yes guys, that's it. If you want to create a gradient, it's quite easy over here, so you can change it anytime. Now let's talk about second topic, and the second topic is brush tool. I'm not a huge fan of this brush tool in this software, but still, if you're an artist, if you like to draw something in Illustrator, in Vector, you need to know where to locate this tool. So hidden B on your keyboard is going to select paintbrush tool, and simply hold left mouse button and you can draw it. And now, if you have a tablet, Wacom tablet, XP Pen tablet, any other tablet, it's going to allow you to change width of the stroke depending on your pressure. The harder you press, the thicker will be your stroke. The easier you press, the lesser will be stroke at the end. So you can control it with the pressure, but right now I have only mouse, so I cannot do that. I cannot show it to you, but it's quite easy to do. You can find a lot of tutorials online how to set up this tool, because well, if in Photoshop it works out of box, in Illustrator sometimes it needs to be set it up properly for the brush tool so it can work ideally for you, so you'll need to spend some time with this tool. But for example, if you want to draw something with your mouse, you don't have a tablet, you need to understand how to work with this tool. Over here, as you can see, you have a couple of different paint brushes. For example, we have this grunge texture, which is called charcoal feather, and right now I selected this one, and let's increase size of our stroke. As you can see right now I have this size. If I want to make this size bigger, so I'm just gonna increase stroke over here, and as you can see I have a new size of my brush. With this tool you'll have a couple of problems, because for example, we have this brush, and as you can see it is a simple stroke with an effect of charcoal, but if you're gonna prepare this document for printing, you'll need to perform a couple of actions, and one of those actions is going to object, now expand appearance. We're gonna discuss this one later. And the problem with this is that you'll have a lot of anchor points. As you can see, all of those objects, all of those curvatures are points, and you'll have a really huge problem if you have a slow machine, because it's gonna consume a lot of your power from your machine. And in case if you want to draw something quite complicated, you'll have a real problem with this one. So please make sure that you don't have too much of those strokes, of those complicated strokes before printing, because it might become messy, and some companies, they ask you to expand all the effects that you have on your project, and in that way you'll have a ton of anchor points and your project is gonna be crazy in terms of weight, of its size. It's gonna be a couple of gigabytes. And the second problem is going to be very hard for your machine to process these documents. So please make sure that you don't use those fancy brushes all the time. Keep it simple. Now, I'm just gonna go to basic one. As you can see, we can draw it like this. And that's it basically. We don't have any complex settings for the brush itself. Well, we have some of them, but they're not so complicated like in Photoshop. So to set up a new brush for you, you can go over here, click plus icon. And as you can see, you have a couple of options for your brush. Calligraphic brush, bristle brush, pattern brush. And it's easier for you, if you're an artist, to go to adobe.com and learn about all of those brushes, because they are a bit tricky. Scatter brush and art brush, they are object-based brushes. What it means that you need to create an object at the beginning, then you need to select this object, for example, rectangle, and only then you can go to this icon and create a brush from this object. Based on this object, you're gonna have your brush. And it's quite tricky, but let me show you how it works. For example, with the first type of brush, with this one, go OK. As you can see, we have quite standard settings. We have a control of angle. Right now we have a circle, so the angle is not going to change anything, but if you're gonna squeeze this circle to an oval, as you can see, now you can control angle and your oval is going to be rotated. Now, in terms of roundness, it's more or less the same as I was controlling this one, just to squeeze or unsqueeze your object. And now in terms of size, yes, it's fixed size, so you can change it anytime. Now, I mentioned before that you can control with the pressure size of your brush, and yes, you can do that. And to make it work, you need to make sure that you have a pressure over here. And now you can control variation, and based on your pressure on your tablet, it's going to have variation in 12 points from the small one to the bigger one, and you can control it anytime. So, for example, let's create this brush. Okay, with the mouse, you'll not see any difference. You'll have only a rounded oval, rotated 45 degrees, that's all. But with the tablet, you'll see that you can control pressure and you can control size of this brush stroke, that's all. So yeah, if you want to do it, you can do it anytime. And other than that, go to adobe.com and learn about other things, because it's easier just to read their articles, so they're quite easy to understand. They have a lot of photos, videos, so yeah, it's way better than me to explain all this stuff if they have already those explained on their website. So with the brushes, we're done, and let's go to the next topic. And the next topic is text. And the text itself is quite interesting in this software. So let me show you how to work with this one. Now hit T on your keyboard and you'll see that you have selected type tool. We have a lot of type tools over here. We're gonna discuss them later, but for now, let's focus on the first one, type tool. Now you have a couple of options how you can create an object in Illustrator, I mean text object. First option, and the most common one, is simply hitting left mouse button. That's all, just click, that's it. Now you created a simple line of text with the filler text named lorem ipsum. It's just an empty text, and now you can type anything you like. For example, subscribe. And yes guys, please consider subscribing to this channel if you like the content, so subscribe. Now I'm just gonna increase the size of this text to make it work. Simply hit escape on your keyboard. Now we exited this control section. And now, as you can see, I have my black arrow. This one is selection tool. And now I can increase size of my text. As you can see, whenever I'm increasing this text, you can clearly tell that I am ruining this aspect ratio. And to keep it consistent, hold Shift on your keyboard. While you hold Shift, you cannot ruin your aspect ratio of the text, and you must hold Shift whenever you're rescaling any object in the software. Whenever you're done, simply release your left mouse button and only then release Shift. Because if you're gonna do it in any other way, for example, if you're gonna release shift, and only then you're gonna release left mouse button, you'll have this problem. So please hold shift, release left mouse button, and only then release shift on your keyboard. Okay, now we have this text scaled properly. Let's talk about other settings that you need to know about this tool. You can control your character, your text, your type field over here on the top part, or you can control it over here in character panel. If you don't have character panel, one more time, go to window, and here you'll find it. Probably it's going to be in type section. Yes, over here. Now for you, I'm gonna open this panel so we can get used to it. And now let's talk about how to change font, for example. To change font for an object, you need to select this object with the black arrow. Now you need to change font over here. Click, and now you have a ton of fonts from your library. And you need to understand the one important thing is that those fonts are not installed in Adobe. They are installed in your system. So if you don't have those fonts, you need to install them in your system, and only then they're gonna be revealed over here. Yet we have a second field over here, which is find more. And those fonts are available only if you are Adobe subscriber, and you'll see that you have way more fonts over here because they are provided to you by Creative Cloud subscription. Those fonts are completely free for commercial and personal use, so you can use them in any kind of projects. And yes, we have a lot of different fonts, so yeah, you can use them from Find More section. That's all. You need to download them. They will not be stored locally in your system. They're going to be downloaded from the cloud, and they're going to be kept in the cloud, and they're going to be revealed in your project only when you have an internet connection. So please make sure that you have them installed. Over here, just click this icon and you'll install them. It's going to take some time, but well, you have a lot of fonts, so yeah, it's quite understandable why you need to download them before using. So for now, I'm gonna use font section, and I'll select Actay white font. Now, as you can see down below this section, we have a second field, which is basically font weight. You can go to bold, bold italic, and to show it more in an ideal way, let's change it to Montserrat. This one is quite popular font, so go to thin, for example. Yeah, and you can just increase or decrease font weight of your typeface, and that's it. For example, let's leave it medium. Over here, you can see that you have a second control option, which is variable font. Not all fonts are variable, but this one is. So you can control it with high precision. And in case light or regular are not precise in terms of thickness, you can control it manually. So simply select light, go to variable font and make it thicker or thinner, and you'll have a more precise control in terms of thickness for your font. Now let's leave it over here to the medium, and let's talk about other sections over here. The first one is font size. It's quite easy to control. If you want to scale it down more quickly, you can hold shift on your keyboard, and in that way you can increase and decrease in tenth of your points. And over here we have a second control option, which is leading. To show you how this leading works, let me type something to this text. Subscribe to the channel. Yeah. Now, as you can see, we have two lines of text. First line, second line. So leading controls the distance between those lines. And at the beginning you have only 72, so you have a range from 6 to 72, but sometimes it's not enough. And in this particular case, you can see that it's not enough. So you can simply manually type 150, for example, and you're gonna have a perfect result. If you wanna keep it in auto setting, you can just hit auto, that's all. And over here, I'm just gonna increase it to 140, for example. Yeah, it's nice. Now, so the leading, it controls the distance between two lines of text. Next option. Next option is kerning, and this one is quite tricky because it controls distance between two separate characters. For example, we have a distance between S and U, and you want to make it smaller. So over here, you'll have less amount of space between those letters. And to change it, you need to double click on your text, because usually you're working with the black arrow and you can move the text around. But if you're gonna double click, you'll go to editing mode, and over here you can change current setting. For example, right now we have 0. I can decrease it with my shift on keyboard. I can make it in 10th of pixels, and that's it. Yeah, so you can control it. The second way to make it is holding Alt on your keyboard and using left and right arrows on your keyboard. So Alt and left, Alt and right. That way you can control it quite easy, and this one is faster. Now, what I'm usually doing with this section is I'm leaving it to optical, because you have two main options of control and kerning for this text field. First option is matrix, and the second one is optical. Matrix is more math-based type of alignment, and due to this, sometimes you might see that you have unbalanced letters, for example, A and O. Due to the structure of O, that it has a lot of empty spaces, and due to the structure of I, you can have a lot of space at the top. You will see that sometimes it looks not so great, so usually I'm changing from matrix to optical, and that way it becomes more compressed type, but it might work for your situation. Those are the main two options, so you can switch between them anytime, but usually I'm using optical. And the last one is this tracking control. And the tracking control is quite easy to understand, because it allows you to change the distance between all of the characters on your text. For example, you want to increase distance between S and U, B, and etc. So I'm just gonna increase it, and as you can see, we have an even distribution of space between those letters. Usually it's used for a situation like logotypes. We have a logo, we have description. Now let's decrease size of this description. In case your description is not wide enough, you want to have this high-tech feeling, you can just increase this description with the tracking. That's all. Yeah, so that's it. That's how it works. If you want to change it, please simply type 0 over here, and you're gonna reset it to the basic settings. Now, what else? As you can see in this panel, we have some settings, but this is not a full panel. If you want to show a full panel, you simply need to click over here and show options. You'll reveal additional section for the panel itself, and most of the time you'll work in this particular type of panel, because it allows you to add some more complicated settings for your typeface. And let's discuss the most crucial options from this panel itself. The first option is the setting that you will not ever change in your life, and please do not change it. It's vertical scale. Why you cannot change it? Because your text is going to look weird with this setting, so please leave it 100 for the vertical one, and for horizontal scale, so please 100, never change it. The second one is baseline shift. In some situations, you want to change the baseline of your text. Right now, as you can see, we have a baseline. It's this blue thin line, which is the baseline of our text, but sometimes you want to shift your letter, for example, higher than the others. So in that scenario, you need to select this letter, and now you can shift it using this baseline shift option. This one is quite problematic sometimes, because if you're gonna forget about this setting, for example, if you're gonna leave it 500, you'll have a very long text field, because as you can see, I have starting point of my text field over here, but it's at the top, and you'll have this huge vertical line, and sometimes people are struggling with this one, they don't know how to remove it. So to remove this vertical line, you simply need to select your whole text, and now you need to remove this baseline shift, set it to 0, and in that way your blinking line is going to be standard one more time. So yeah, please keep it simple, use it only when it's necessary, don't overuse those settings. Now, as well as those control options, you have very special one, character rotation. This one is quite new. I don't think that you'll ever use it, but if you want it, you can use it. I don't know, but for me, it's useless option. But if you want, you can do this. And other things that you need to know and you need to use is all caps, small caps, superscript, subscript, underline, and strike through. Let me show you how that works. For example, we have a text artflow. And I don't want to retype this text, but I want to have those letters as big letters. So I'm just gonna press this icon, and as you can see, my letters are big right now. If I want to have those small letters like big ones, but still they need to be the small ones, you can use small caps. And that way, your small letters are going to be visually like the big ones, but they're going to be smaller. So yeah, I don't like this one. I'm never using it, but if you want to use it, you can use it. And in terms of superscript and subscript, this one is quite easy. So simply select 2, for example, select it, and now apply this option, superscript or subscript. If you want to have underline, select your whole block of text and go with underline or strike through. That's all. In terms of those options like language, sharpness, keep it sharp, do not change it. But in terms of language, leave it English. In terms of snapping and all those kind of stuff, please leave it, set it up like me over here. So turn on everything that I have, turn off everything that I turn off, and it's going to be easier for you. Now, if you want to learn what those icons actually mean, you can simply hover those icons and you can read what they do, or go to ChatGPT, send a screenshot to double check what those means, or go to adobe.com and read about them more. So yeah, you have a lot of things to do, but I'm not using them. So I just set it up them at the beginning and I'm using them like that, and that's all for me. I'm not changing them anytime soon. So please leave it like that. If you want to learn more, you know where to learn more. Now, as well as this character section, you have a paragraph one. I'm sorry that this video is quite long, but we have a lot of things to discuss and I cannot have 2 parts of the same topic because it's going to be weird. So yeah, we have a paragraph option. Paragraph option is for a longer type of text fields. For example, let me find something longer than the name of our channel. So let's take an article from Wikipedia and I copy it, pasting it with the Command V, and as you can see, we have a huge line of text. So here is the tricky part, because if you're gonna copy and paste the text in a basic manner, so Ctrl+C and Ctrl+V on your keyboard, you're gonna have a weird result. You're gonna have a long line of text, and this one is not easy to work with. So in order to paste the text properly, you need to use a second type of type field over here. Simply select T on your keyboard and now hold left mouse button, drag it from the left corner to the right corner. And when you're happy with the size of your text field, simply release left mouse button. You'll have a lorem ipsum empty text. Now replace it with your text, Command V. Yeah. And now, as you can see, we have quite small leading, so I'll need to increase leading for this text. So selecting V on my keyboard or hitting this icon. Now character, and I'll change it to auto, and I'll decrease font size. Let's keep it like this. Now I can increase size of this box anytime. And as you can see, the text will be restructured in order to fill this whole width of this type area. And now let's talk about paragraph itself. In some situations, you want to change alignment of your text. You can align it to the left part, which is the standard one. You can align it to center, right, and as well as those options, you can align it in justify matters. So your first line is going to be in a full width, second line is going to be in a full width, and in order to achieve that, you'll have quite wide spaces between some of those letters, some of those words. So sometimes you might use this one, especially for books, for magazines, but most of the time for web usage, for graphic design scenarios, it's aligned to the left part. Now, as you can see, we have a bullets option. If you want to assign it, you can do that. You have a numbers options, and we have a control of left indent. If you're gonna increase it, you'll have a bigger space from the left side to the right side. You can do the same for the right part, and you can do the same for the first line of text. And you can control spacing between those blocks of text. For example, I have this block of text and I have a second block of text, and I want to control the distance between those two blocks of text. For example, I want to increase distance from this block of text to the second one, so I can move this paragraph to 20 pt, and if I want to change distance in other way, I can move it over here. So for you it looks quite similar, but for the real world usage it's quite different, because over here you're adding distance to this block of text at the top, and for this one you're adding the distance from the bottom of this text. Usually it looks similar, but in real world it's a bit different. So yeah, this panel is quite easy, we don't have any complicated settings, and yeah, that's it. So you have two main primary options of typing a text. First option is simply hitting left mouse button, that's all, click, you have a line text. And the second option is dragging and releasing your left mouse button, that's it. The only disadvantage of this option is that you cannot rescale it like a single line of text. As you can see, I cannot change font size using this technique because it's going to increase or decrease size of the box itself, not the text, not the content in it. So if you want to use this way, this area type tool, you need to decrease or increase font size manually using this option, and you cannot increase it or decrease it using this black arrow, because in line text, as I mentioned earlier, you can make it quite simple, quite easy for you. And whenever I'm working with graphic design, like branding, logotypes, and some simple magazine materials, usually I'm working with the line text, but whenever I have a ton of text, yes, I'm using area type text tool. And now let's go through other type tool options. They are quite easy, so that's not gonna take a lot of time. Area type tool and type tool, we cover those. This one is single line text, this one is a whole block area. This one, type on a path tool, is quite easy. Whenever you have a curvature line, for example a line road with the pen tool, we're gonna cover later, you can hit T on your keyboard, and now whenever you're hovering this line, you can click with left mouse button and you'll have a curved line. To make it work, you'll need to understand how to work with the pen tool, and we have a full tutorial about this tool because it is quite complicated, and we have a 15 minutes video, as I remember, just about this tool. So if you want to check it, if you want to learn it, and this one is very important tool, so simply click, I think here or here, you're gonna have a pop-up window and watch a video, and then come back to this one because you're gonna need it later. So as I mentioned before, you need to draw a line, some curved line. Now you need to hit T on your keyboard, and now you can click and you'll have this interesting type of text. For the next one is vertical type tool. It does what it actually sounds like. It's going to create a vertical type, that's it. And also we have vertical area type tool. I don't think that you'll ever use this one, so we'll skip it. Vertical type on a path tool, it's the same as type on a path tool but vertical, so we'll skip it. And touch type tool, this one is quite interesting, and this one is relatively new, so let me show it to you. We have lorem ipsum text, and I'm gonna select touch type tool. Whenever you're clicking with left mouse button, you'll see that you have a full control of your letter. You can individually rescale it, you can rotate it, you can do whatever you want with those letters, and that's it. So this is an easy control of your letters. If you want to rescale them, it's faster doing with this tool rather than going to settings itself and changing font size for each individual letter. So this one is faster, and as well as rescaling, you can move them around. Quite weird, but yeah, you can do that. So this video is quite long enough, so we'll cover a lot of different things in the next one. Please consider hitting like button and subscribe to this channel if you found this content useful. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.